What's good, fellow outcasts and other rejects? It's Nier here, and welcome to WTC, the Anime Outcast. First off, if you're new here, we upload anime what-ifs based around My Hero and other shows alike. Secondly, did you know 80% of our audience isn't subscribed? So if you want us to continue making good content, make sure to like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Our story starts in a familiar location, a child's playground in a kindergarten. A very young Izuku Midoriya stares down his future rival, Katsuki Bakugo. They're locked in a childish standoff, due to the blonde hurting another kid. Even at this young age, the powerless child took pride in his heroic ideals. The only problem being, Izuku was outclassed in multiple aspects. For one, he's outnumbered 3-1, and his aggressors had quirks at their disposal, though they were fairly underdeveloped because of their young age. But the boy stood his ground, even though he was scared shitless. After a moment of silence, Izuku raised his hands with his legs shaking and yelled at Katsuki and his lackeys, telling them not to come closer. But the young blonde did not care for what the fellow boy had to say as he marched over to him. The sparky slap in the style of a right hook, Bakugo goes to hit his former friend to show him his place. Though as the hand was about to make contact with the defenseless Izuku, something blocked the attack. Small silver growths covered the timid boy's hand, forming a tiny metal fist. With his steel limb, Deku shielded himself from the small explosion, lightly damaging its green paint. But once he lowered his arm, the weight of the robotic fist was too much, causing the boy to topple forwards. At first, this de-escalated the situation, with the attackers laughing at the circumstance Deku found himself in. His metal hand was just too heavy for his little boy body to lift, causing it to be stuck on the ground. Eventually, the teacher noticed the young boy glued to the floor and helped him up. Once off the ground, the excitement of manifesting a quirk would hit Izuku. Flailing the metal weapon around in joy, he started thinking of the possibilities and what else his new power could do. They had no idea how to deactivate the quirk. From there, the kindergarten staff would usher the boy inside quickly, as he could endanger the other kids with his biomechanical limb. Once inside, something strange happened to young Midoriya. His energy started rapidly depleting, as he fell into a deep slumber right as he entered the main building. The surrounding adults took a second to assess the situation, one of them going to pick up Izuku. But as they got close, more chrome tumors appeared on the child's body, just like the one that had been birthed the metal fist. Cries of pain then emanated from the vastly expanding mass as all machinery in the area went haywire. Phones caught fire and light bulbs exploded just from being near the pulsating thing. Whatever this kid's power was, it wasn't something a child was fit for. The metallic mass quickly grew bigger than the kindergarten building, breaking through it, and spawned a robotic monster. The machine was a hunchback humanoid, with a multitude of different weapons on its body. The beast had bright neon blue eyes, which were the only color on it other than a drab gray. Its arsenal included, but it wasn't limited to, shoulder-mounted cannons, bladed forearms, and guns in his thighs. With a mighty roar shaking the nearby landmarks, the out-of-control boy went on a rampage. The teachers tried desperately to evacuate the small children from the area, as Izuku started laying waste to the site. Most screaming in fear as they ran away with adults. All but one boy. Bakugo gawked at the massive mech in pure awe, though he didn't know his frenemy was at the core of the beast. Once his old school was nothing more than rubble, the raging machine moved forward into the city, using its cannons to attack from a range as he slowly got closer. The trees becoming flaming torches and buildings crumbling, some heroes finally arrived, but most of them paled in comparison to the massive robot, not being able to put a dent into it. From on top of a still-standing structure, one man stood alone and watched the machine. Within an earpiece, Sir Night-Eye frantically communicated with the hero about the situation. All Might, be careful. Something seems off about this one. Why would he attack a bunch of kids? The sidekick cautioned, but the upcoming hero only shrugged off the concern. His motives don't matter now. Only the fact that he needs to be stopped before anyone else gets hurt, declared the red and blue garbed man, full of passion that roared like a lion. Then, All Might dashed off the building, one for all coursing through his body freely. The upcoming symbol of peace rocketed at the machine, with his right fist pulled back. He attempted to smite down the robot with a classic Detroit smash, using roughly around 40% of his power. The metallic monster matched the blow with his own punch, clashing with the younger version of the hero. Due to his size and raw power, All Might was sent flying back, but still managed to break the robot's fist. "It seems I underestimated you, big guy," muttered Toshinori as he recovered from crashing into the building, digging his fist onto the floor to stop his momentum. "But be warned, I won't make the same mistake!" He then continued, narrowing his eyes and increasing his power output. With 75% in his fist and 50% of his whole body, All Might charged once more, intending to finish the fight fast. With his increasing speed, rampaging mech didn't get time to react, allowing All Might to get a flurry of attacks in. Finally, the hero got the robot on the back foot from a mix of Detroit, Carolina, and Texas Smash. Midway through his spam of super moves, All Might clinged onto a hole made on its lower chest as his hand got stuck within. As he held on, the cries of a young child echoed out of it. At first, it caught the man off guard, but then he radioed in his sidekick. "Night-Eye, I think there's a kid inside this thing," he muttered, not sure if he could believe his own ears. After all, how could a child pilot such a war machine? But, pushing past a strange thought, All Might started expanding the opening he made. Once it was large enough for him to fit in, he entered the machine's chassis, to destroy it from the inside. The remaining pro-heroes watched in terrifying anticipation, hearing loud bangs from inside the mech as it continued its onslaught. Then, as it felt like an eternity, the beast suddenly came to a grinding halt, as the color drained from its eyes, then dropping to its knees. All Might then emerged from the dead machine, creating a small, unconscious child in his arms. The boy would awaken in a hospital in a couple days, with no memory of the incident, or of anything at all. It was like he became a blank slate. But, thankfully, his mother would be there at his side. He would become somewhat like his old self in no time. With that over, we now need to discuss what actually happened, what the researchers did to Izuku after his rampage. After an extensive amount of testing, the doctors concluded that the boy manifested a strange type of mutation quirk that could easily be mistaken for a transformation type as well. The superpower created microscopic machines within Izuku's body, which he could produce like antibodies. His rampaging Evo form was made of the little nanites, as they could link together to form a unique form of metal. For those of you who watch Generator X fully, you would know that the Omega Nanite has the same ability. Izuku's production of them is nowhere close to that, not being able to process them on the fly. They formed slowly over time, like most things related to the body. Though the nanites came with a whole host of abilities on their own, such as a notable healing factor, immunity to some sicknesses, and the capability to control technology. But one question still lingered in the minds of all researchers. Why was Midoriya forced to become a giant robot by his quirk? Since it was unethical for most doctors to force the boy to transform again, this would be left unanswered. From there, the quirk would be dubbed nanites, and the Midoriyas would have to go on as usual. They would really only be given support for one part of the quirk. As Izuku is basically a factory for nanites, his body would overflow with the little machines on a regular basis. So every once in a while, he would need to purge the devices at a hospital. What the staff did with the robotic cells was not known to the Midoriya family, and the only answer ever given to them was to study them. Now, with that long-winded origin out of the way, we can finally get into the main story. We pick up with a 15-year-old Izuku in one of his final middle school classes. Personality-wise, he's not too different from the one we've all come to know and love. though he's a bit more confident, as in the eyes of his classmates, he was just like them. So when it comes time for one of the teachers of Aldera Junior High to ask who's going down the hero route in life, Minora raises his hand without trying to hide it.
Really? Best you could do as a hero is speed up a traffic light, Deku.
Bakugo joked from the back of the class, his teeth propped up on the desk with a coy smile on his face. Then the blonde boy continued on with his usual rant about becoming the best, which has been said 100 times or so within that week alone. So, instead, we move to after class when Bakugo and his gang have a little chat with Izuku. Our protagonist sits at his desk with a few books and school supplies littered upon it. Bakugo sits on a table in front of him with his goons surrounding them.
You really want to be a hero? Stop being a pussy and become that robot thing again.
The Explosion King bluntly exclaimed. Ever since our green protagonist gained his quirk, Bakugo have been ever so slightly nicer to him. It really just boils down to him just wanting to see and then fight Izuku's Evo form. This again, Kachan? I told you like a million times! It's more complicated than that! Retorts the nanite-infested boy, irritated by his friend's obsession with his power.
How are you supposed to be a hero? Let me guess. Trash compactor?
The other boys laugh back, jumping off the desk and snatching Izuku's hero notes. As a form of coercion, the Bombardier makes his signature move of burning the notebook before tossing it out a random open window. Izuku leaped from his desk and over to the open shutter, shocked since the mean-spirited move came out of nowhere. Then after a moment of being frozen, he turns around to have Bakugo get right up and close to his face.
Come on. I know you want to kill me for that.
He teases, seeing Izuku's eyes twitch as a small cluster of nanites formed beneath it. But Deku holds himself together and just leaves the room sobbing, causing the others to laugh. As the boy retrieves his toasty notes from outside and starts depressively walking home, he reminisces about the trauma he can't remember. Though he doesn't know what happened on that fateful day, he still fears what he has been told about it. The thought of transforming into a giant killing machine was terrifying. They couldn't get too deep in thought, as his thinking would be rudely interrupted by an incoming villain. Because of today's events, he took a shortcut on his way home, which led him through a run-down underpass. He was just about to exit through the other side of the tunnel. The monstrous gurgling comes from beneath the student, stopping him. He looked behind him just in time to see a green goo creature force its way out of a sewer grate. The villain in question was running away from a hero for the better part of the day, and needed to get away. What would be a better escape than stealing some child's body and hiding within it?
What's the matter, kid? You look like you've seen a ghost!
Bellows the Sludge villain, as it fully developed in front of Izuku, the color in his face draining at the sight of it. Then the creature submerged into the boy, in a hulking mass attempting to fit inside him, somehow. As every orifice of the boy's body was blocked by Sludge, his body began reacting on its own. The nanites started responding to the foreign attack, causing a flare-up. Metal tumors started growing off Hideku's body, stopping the villain's advancements by covering every entry method.
What are you?
Ironically asked the monster as he was forcefully repelled from the boy. Something felt off to Izuku. It was the first time in years that a lot of nanites became active in his body at the same time, and his quirk went haywire like this, but it didn't hurt this time. But the metal growths didn't hurt until wires started shooting out and latching onto the tunnel walls. The web-like tendrils suspended him off the ground like spider's prey trapped in its web.
Run away! Quickly! Get help or something!
Cried Izuku as a sharp pain ran down his spine. Though trying to reason with the green slime man probably wasn't the best idea in hindsight, he did try and warn the villain as he thought his robotic form was about to rear its ugly head. But instead of that outcome, nothing happened, as Izuku began to black out. Once unconscious, his nanites began to cluster, slowly, retracting into his body and starting the healing process, becoming almost like a scab protecting a wound. The green monster just stared at the sleeping child, in equal parts shock and confusion.
What type of quirk is that? Maybe I, shouldn't take that body,
remarked the villain out loud, preparing to search for a different vessel to hide in.
Take his body? Sounds in character for a village such as yourself!
A voice charismatically called out from behind the sludge being, causing him to jump in fear. The hero who had been on his tail was none other than All Might, the symbol of peace. As one charged up Texas Smash, the legend splattered the villain against the tunnel walls, painting them dark green. As the Jade Boy awakened from his sleep, he was surprised to see his idol in front of him again.
Ah, I thought I lost you, young man,
the symbol cheerfully explained, as he attempted to fit a soda bottle into his pocket, which contained the central part of the sludge villain. Deku was speechless at the sight of All Might, though slightly sad. He appeared to not remember him. Granted, neither did he, to be fair. Keeping things brief, All Might paid his dues and then prepared to blast off. He could sense his time limit creeping upon him. As he boosted into the air, he felt something cling to him.
"Please! I need to know if you remember me!"
cried Midoriya, as he desperately held on to All Might, startling the man. At first, the blonde icon tried to brush Izuku off, before being reminded that that could cause him to literally fall to his death. So, with no other choice, he landed on a nearby rooftop, so the boy could let go safely. This forced the fading hero to reveal his secret to the young student, like in the normal story. But once the tale of how All Might gained his nasty injury, he repeated the same question Izuku asked while in the air. "What is that thing you asked before? Something about remembering you?" This then gets the green-haired boy to nod hesitantly. "Then you gotta give me something to work with. I save like 50 people a day. They'll start blending together when you've been a hero for as long as I have." Further tells All Might, causing Izuku to look down at his feet. Takes the timid boy a second. He explained the events that defined his fascination for heroes.
This happened about 12 years ago, when I first manifested my quirk. When it first activated, I sort of became a giant robot and went crazy.
Midoriya muttered, trying to jog the idol's memory. But once All Might hears this part about the quirk manifesting into a mech, his jaw drops and his eyes whiten. "You're that Midoriya kid, aren't you?" asked the symbol of peace, causing Izuku to smile.
Yes, sir, I am. I didn't think you'd remember me."
He sheepishly utters back, amazed that his idol already knew his name. "Remember you? How could I forget? It's not every day some child becomes a rampaging robot. You've certainly grown since last time." Toshinori mutters, causing both of them to laugh out loud. Then, Deku talks about his strange relationship with his quirk. Ever since that day, he hasn't tried to develop it, or use it, keeping it suppressed whenever possible. Though he did have some outbursts with it, like accidentally interfacing with technology when his emotions got too high. Despite that, he still dreams of becoming a hero, to which he asked All Might if that was still possible. "Well, it seems you've been letting the past hold you back. If you continue to do so, your chances of reaching a dream are slim to none," announced the esteemed hero, which was basically what Bakugo had been telling Izuku this entire time, just in a friendlier tone. But with that answer lingering in his head, All Might excused himself from the rooftop, as he needed to turn in the captured villain. Izuku stayed at the vacant building top for a few more minutes, processing the interaction before leaving himself. On the city streets, he tried to walk home once more, hoping to move past today. The scent of smoke lured him in, his curious spirit forcing him to walk closer to the source. Within a matter of minutes, he stumbled across a destroyed city block, causing him to be enthralled by the mystery. Then further down the road, a large crowd of people drew him to the epicenter of the chaos. A sludge villain trapped Bakugo. The heroes, Death Arms, Backdraft, Kamui Woods, and Mount Lady struggled to save the hostage. Death Arms' strength wasn't like that of All Might's. He couldn't just explode the villain with a single punch as he did. Meanwhile, Backdraft and Kamui Woods were too busy saving civilians to help fend off the monster, with the latter not being able to get close due to the raging fire. As for Mount Lady, she was just too damn big to do anything. To put it simply, they all shared a common excuse. Their quirks weren't suited for this situation. As Izuku stared on, he could feel the nanites activate rapidly, in a similar way from when he faced the villain himself. It didn't faze him, as only one thought crossed through his mind. Why wasn't anyone trying to help his friend? Without thinking, his body moved, rushing into the heat of the crisis. Multiple onlookers yelled at the boy, trying to tell him to stop, but nothing could get through to him. Once near enough range, the sludge monstrosity beckoned the student.
You again! Be gone! I found someone better!
A whip-like tendril shot from the monster like a bullet, aimed straight at Izuku's chest. The green-haired boy instinctively threw himself out of the way, slamming into an evacuated car. Once Deku brushed off the machine, blue lines started forming across it, with a pattern of circuitry, causing it to respond to his thoughts. He had control devices before, but nothing this advanced. The car's engine started to rev violently, before driving straight at the villain. Izuku glared at his hand in fear. He did not mean to use his quirk, but once more his fear was going rampant. But another strange event began to occur. Machinery started forming around his hands, creating a metal fist, just like the one he made as a child. But this time, he could lift it. In his nervous wreck of state, Izuku turned behind him to gaze at the spectators. He was greeted by the sight of multiple heroes and civilians, watching in amazement, causing him to look back at the sludge monster. His car attack was a surprise to him, which allowed him to make contact, meaning much of his green mask was taken off when the car drove through. Standing up, Deku started opening and closing the robotic fist, getting a feel for it. He had near-perfect control.
Maybe All Might was right. It's all in my head. I don't have to be afraid anymore.
The nanite-infested boy thought to himself. Then with a newfound conviction, our leading character pressed on, running at the Goo Man.
What the hell? When did you become useful?
Bakugo roared from within the pulsating mass of green sludge, struggling to even breathe. But Izuku pushed past the comment, grabbing his friend by the waist and attempting to rip him out of the villain. Though, simply put, he wasn't strong enough. Then, as the boy still desperately tried to free Bakugo, something physically connected within the nanites, causing a motor to be turned on. Katsuki and the metal glove then began to spin rapidly, causing the rage-filled boy to scream out in anguish. Deku quickly dropped his grip on the other student, soon after, but it loosened him.
You'll pay for this, bastard!
Roared the villain, its twisted eyes locking onto the scared boy.
Oh, shit.
Muttered Izuku in response, seeing the sludge villain raise one appendage into the air. Then, when his emotions began spiking high, his first ever build as a teenager crumbled, turning into scrap. As Sludge Villain's arm was about to collide with the boy, something came between the two, splattering the attack.
Not bad for someone afraid of their own power, kid. But I think you should leave the rest to the professionals!
Exclaimed the bombastic symbol of peace as he pushed past his limits, entering his muscle-clad form to protect Izuku. Thanks to the outcasts and rejects for watching till the end of the video. If this video gets 80 likes in 2 weeks, we'll continue the series. Other than that, if you have any questions about the series or channel, sound off in the comments or feel free to join our Discord. Once again, out of character, sorry for the cliffhanger. Story's great, I know. I'm back. I should stay back, and hopefully I'll keep entertaining all y'all as long as I possibly can. That's it for me. Nier signing out. Y'all have a great day. And a happy 2022.